All right, hello, welcome back to Advent. So we are on day 13 and we are all caught up. This morning I spent our morning at church. You're hearing our dog with his new toy, his squeaker toy. Hey Jack, let me show you Jack. Where's your toy? You gonna show us your toy? He has this toy, and this is actually his brother's toy, but he has stolen that toy from Relby and decided to keep this toy for his own. So, Jack, shh. So you might hear the squeaking the whole time because he's very proud of himself for getting this toy. All right, so today is day 13, and we are going to do the warrior leader. I hope that you can see that. From Joshua 3 and 6. All right, so I had to change out the battery real quick. So again, we're on day 13, the warrior leader, Joshua 3 and 6. Okay, the warrior leader. All right. After Moses died, God gave his people a new leader. His name was Joshua, which means the Lord saves. Joshua was going to lead God's people into a special land God had promised to give them. By this time, God's people had been wandering around in that baking desert for 40 years. So you can imagine how sick they were of sand and anything yellow and tense and walking and being hot. And how happy they were to reach the edge of the desert and to see their beautiful new home right there in front of them, all cool and green and lovely. There was only one problem: Jericho. Jericho was a city, but it wasn't just any old city. It was a fortress, and it stopped anyone from getting into the land. The people looked at Jericho, at the big, giant, scary walls all around it, and at the tall, towering ramparts, at the heavy iron gates bolted shut at each other. That would do. No one knew, but God knew. And God told Joshua what to do. But Joshua must have looked surprised because it was a very old battle plan indeed, as well we'll soon find out. Then God made his people a promise. I will always be with you, and I will never ever leave you. If you do what I say, your lives in the new land will be a happy, everything will go well. So Joshua gathered his army together, and they had their swords and spears and shields. They were ready to fight, but the plan wasn't about fighting. It was about trusting and doing what God said. Joshua's army went marching around the city, day after day after day. They're too scared to fight, the people in Jericho said. But they were wrong. God's people weren't scared. They were waiting for God to tell them what to do next. On the 7th day, God told his people to march around the city, not once, but 7 times. Then God told everyone to make as much noise as they could. Has anyone ever told you to make as much noise as you possibly can? Well, imagine that noise. Add 39,999 other people making that noise too, and you can get the idea. It was ear-splitting. And as it turned out, stone-splitting too, because the huge, strong walls of Jericho just crumbled to the ground as if they were made of sand. Jericho vanished in a great cloud of dust. So it was that God's people entered their new home, and they didn't have to fight to get in. They only had to walk. Joshua said, God has brought you safely here. Now will you do what he says? Everyone said, we promise. Only God can make your heart happy. Joshua said, so don't pray to pretend gods. No, they said never. I'm afraid they didn't keep that promise. They didn't do what God said, and many years later, just as God warned them, things would go badly for God's people. They would lose their homes. Enemies would capture them and take them off as slaves, and God's people would scatter into many different lands. But God's plan was still working. One day he would give his people another leader and another home, but this time no one could ever take them. All right, so we are reading from the Jesus Storybook Bible. It was written by Sally Lloyd Jones and illustrated by Jago. So this has been so far a really good devotion, an Advent leading up to the day Christ is born. So I'm so glad that you could join me today. This evening we are headed to church. There is going to be a cantata. So that will be lovely to go see. That will be online if maybe you'll catch that. Hopefully you did, because the choir worked really hard. They social distanced, they stepped 6 feet apart. They did what they could, and we are gonna all come together and we're gonna watch that. So super excited about that. And tomorrow we will do day 7. No, we will do day 14. I'm a little off, huh? Day 14, the teeny weeny true king, 1 Samuel 16. All right, so that's what we'll do tomorrow. And oh, let me hang this on the tree. Our tree is getting filled up with Advent. It's looking so pretty. So let me get it hung up for y'all. All right, so there we go. Thanks for joining me here on Lautarlife. I'm Ann. Thanks for joining me. If you liked what you're seeing, please make sure that you subscribe so you can see tomorrow's Advent. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.